Kia ora, the topic of today's conversation is speaking with grace, which is quite self-descriptive actually. Speaking with grace. You probably know what this means more so from speaking without grace, the absence of grace in speech, the yelling, the arguing, the conflict between people. Maybe it's you, maybe it's someone else, maybe it's you've seen it in a movie, you've witnessed it in other people. Speaking with grace. Now, to me, speaking with grace can be looked at as a principle that you can implement, a principle that I can implement, a principle that we can all implement in our lives. And I say principle compared to rule, because a principle is something that we can guide towards. A principle is kind of like sailing to a set point. We can get there by really efficiently sailing, by getting the rudder right and pulling the sails in the right positions. Or we can get there really ineffectively. We can take an hour to get from point A to point B, or we can take 4 hours if you're a poor sailor. Either way, we can always try and center what we're doing with principles. And that's why I think speaking with grace is a great principle, because it doesn't always happen. We might slip up at times, but it at least gives us something to redirect to something to come back to. So what is grace? I've got my trusty notes here, so please excuse me for looking down. I did Google it. Google gave me a whole bunch of text, definitions, meanings, smoothness and elegance of movement, courteous goodwill, bring honor or credit to someone or somebody by one's attendance or participation, charm, finesse, poise, elegance, courtesy, politeness, manners, dignify, distinguish, honor. Speaking with grace requires us to speak with all of those things. Speaking with grace. Now, the absence of grace. The absence of grace in our speech means that we're not speaking like all of those things. And in my opinion, from what I've witnessed in the world, from what I've witnessed in others' behaviours, from what I've witnessed in my own behaviours, is that this occurs when we're in an emotional state that's out of balance. Negative emotions. We have a neutral state, and then we have really high positive emotions, and we have really high negative emotions. And so speaking with grace requires us to overcome these negative emotions. And I'm going to share with you my thoughts on emotions, because I tell this to my kids. I use this as an example for my kids. I use it as an example when I speak to people about emotions and feelings and how to navigate everything that comes along with that. And that is, it's a dual position. I look at emotions as being two states, or two separate things. There's the first part, then there's the second part. The first part is internal, the second part is external. We feel something, we act a certain way. We have a feeling or an emotion followed by an action or a behavior. We feel a certain way, we do a certain thing. We say a certain thing, we have body language, we express it in the physical. So what we often have is really strong connection. And it's a strong connection both in, I guess, space and time. Particularly time. It's almost instantaneous. I feel something, I react. Something happens externally, I feel a certain way, or I think a certain thought and I feel a certain way, and therefore an action occurs. I say something, I respond. Sometimes, in really bad cases, it's this. We've seen it happen. It happens all throughout humanity. And so we need to understand how closely linked they are, because speaking with grace requires a disconnection between those two, between how we feel and what we do, or in this case, what we say. Now I've got 4 points here. I've made these up based on, I've made them up. I've deduced them from looking at many different sources, from being aware of many different situations that I've observed other people in. I've reflected on my own situations, my own conversations that I've had with people. And these are 4 things that I've come up with that, in my opinion, if we can follow them, if we can implement them into this principle of speaking with grace, we will be able to speak with grace. We will be able to affect better conversations. We will be able to improve relationships by speaking with grace. The absence of grace tends to cause disconnect, tends to cause breakdown. So, number one is patience. Cultivate patience in your interactions. Understand that people have different perspectives and experiences. So often when we're talking with someone or something happens externally to us, like I've explained, you have an emotion and then something blurts out. So patience is really about this separation. Separation between how we feel and what we do, how we feel and what we say. Bringing patience into that space helps us to buy time. Buy time to formulate a response that's going to be graceful. We can speak with grace. Number 2 is word choice. Now you may recognize my face as a Te Reo Māori, a Maori language teacher, as I've been for many years online. So many people know me online. I've often spoken about the importance of your first language, your primary language. Forget about learning a secondary language. It is just as important as trying to learn your second language as it is to improving what you know about your first language. Improve the level of vocabulary that you have. Improve the level of the number of words that you know, the meaning, the nuances, all of those things. Because when it comes to speaking with grace, because when it comes to conflict, when it comes to having a discussion with something, having more words in your vocabulary is only a good thing, is only a positive thing. The more words you know, the better you are positioned to be able to be more nuanced in your response, be more nuanced in being able to express yourself. And through that, we can use the right words. You have probably witnessed someone that has poor word choice combined with a really emotional response. There's no time between the emotion and the action, and then they'll say all sorts of ridiculous things they don't mean, or very limited vocabulary, lots of swear words, all those things. I, myself, am guilty of this. Word choice, very important. Number 3, I've learnt this from reading the Bible, I'll be honest. Forgiveness and letting go. I'll start with letting go. Letting go of your position, your preconceived ideas about how something should be. Letting go of your fixed position. If I've got a cup here and the cup is the problem, and I only look at the cup from this direction, I can only ever see the cup from this direction. I can't see what you can see, which is on the other side. So letting go requires me to let go of this fixed position so that I can turn around and see the cup from a different angle. I can see the cup from a different perspective. I can see the cup from perhaps someone else's perspective. And that's what letting go is. Forgiveness is about you releasing some sort of imposed duty that you've placed on someone else. You've got to be able to forgive them from the position that you have put them in. They might have done something wrong to you and therefore you're holding something towards them. Forgiveness is about letting go of whatever that position is. Again, letting go. This is only helpful in being able to speak with grace. If you can only speak to someone with a preconceived notion about what they've done, if you can't let go of that position, if you can't forgive them of whether it's a complete atrocity or whether it's something minor, some minor indiscretion, if you can't forgive them and release them of that, you're limiting in what you can say, and you're limiting your ability to be able to speak with grace. Number 4 is respond, not react. This is number 4, the last one on the list. Respond, not react. Spoke about before separating the two. Building time, patience. If we can build patience into how we feel versus what we say, we can then be more considered about what we're going to say. We can then be more nuanced with our word choice. We can let go and look at the issue from different perspectives. We can formulate quite intelligent responses that are nuanced, responses that aren't just an emotional reaction. They're not a verbal punch. They're not a verbal uppercut, which is what reacting would be. So to speak with grace, number 1, patience. Number 2, word choice. Number 3, forgiveness and letting go. Number 4, respond, not react. Now, I'm not saying this is going to solve all of your world problems. I'm not saying it's going to solve the world's problems, but it is a good principle. It is a fantastic principle for you to implement into your own life. Like I said at the start, this is something that you might take 4 hours to get there when you could get there in 1 hour. Like the sailing analogy, we can always improve. We can always come back to this as a principle. If we go and apply this as a rule, we're going to fall short. We're going to fall short multiple times every day. If we have it as a principle, we have it as a guide to improve our life. Speaking with grace as a guiding principle. For me, it's something that I'm implementing. I hope that this gives some empowerment to you. I hope you find it interesting. I hope you're able to implement it. I firmly believe that if you can implement it, you will have a better life. The people around you will have a better life also. Speaking with grace.